you. Okay, here we are.
The red button is on, the red light.
So welcome everyone. Do-over. Welcome everyone to Relating on the Bridge. And I'd like to begin by setting some context for what brought Jeff and I here to be having this work talk with all of you. And for me, I'll speak for myself. I think I like to speak for myself, and hear from you. You can go. So, yeah, so for me, what brought me here is I actually, it's so perfect actually that Jeff spoke about resistance, because from the moment I met Jeff, I had a lot of resistance to him, because I sensed on different levels, like 5 bodies. So if you don't have the context of 5 bodies, there's your physical body, energetic, emotional, intellectual, and archetypal. And if you're new to this context, archetypal could be something almost similar to something bigger than yourself, like your higher self, or maybe spiritual, to give it some different lenses. And so I sensed quite a lot of a draw to Jeff, and that is actually where the tension began for me, because I've been really dedicated to myself and my path this year, and I sensed that I wanted to keep on that, and I didn't want to get distracted. I had a story of I didn't want to get distracted, and I realized that being in relationship is actually, it's easy to be alone and to do my work alone.
Can I pause you for 1 second?
Yes.
I have something very scary to ask. Jake, I would like to see your face more than your crotch. Will you change positions to make it so that we can? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So, yeah, so I had this story that I needed to be alone. I need to do it alone. I need to do the work alone, to work on myself alone, until I reach some certain point that then I can enter into relating again. And so that's how it went. And Jeff and I sort of skirted around, and this resistance, at least from my end, because I'm just speaking for myself. And I feel so much joy that the resistance, and in this tension, we actually, or I found that a container started to open that was much more, because it held this tension. It was not so simple, and not so like instantly gratifying as it could be. And because of delaying the gratification, and I don't even just mean physically, but of emotionally and intellectually deepening connection, we've been training together since we met. And we've also been through some challenging things in a short period of time. We have been very vulnerable, and gone through PM processes together, what I would call real life relational processes together, and a lot of pain and things that are uncomfortable together, and also fun things. It's been a lot of fun too. And yeah, so that's what brought me here, is resisting continuing my work in relationship. And then I said yes to an adventure, and then I pulled Jeff into the middle of a circle and yelled at him very intensely in front of 20 people, and asked him to practice with me our own work and keep training together. And that work specifically being about the relational work. We have our own work, and then we have like our own work that is specifically related to our relating. So we're practicing our relational work together and holding our swords to each other. every day. So that's what brought me here. And that's my context for being here. And the work talk, I want to unfold. What I want from this space is to unfold with you, like through the, the mirror that people bring, these collective questions. What is the wisdom for how we can navigate better together? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks. You're missing it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so Jacqueline spoke about 5 bodies, and there's the map of 5 bodies, and there's also 5-body intimacy. And it's quite easy, relatively easy to for us. We've been doing intense trainings together, and we've been traveling together and making love, and so like the 4 bodies are it's very kind of relatively easy to nourish them, but the one that has the most resistance is its archetypal body. And it's like, how do we even do that? What does that even mean? And creating this space, creating this relating on the bridge, we met a lot of resistance. It's like, should we do this? Are we ready? We've only been doing this for a little bit. What are we going to talk about? Who are we to say anything? And just to have a yes and create the space together and go without knowing how we're going to do it, and sit here in front of you all side by side, and with our talismans around our neck and our stones in front of us, and to commit and say, we're going to do this together. This has really been such a beautiful journey of archetypal connection and intimacy. And God, yeah, it's been so scary to like the minutes ticked down to the start of this call. Is like, and here we are. And I'm just so glad to have this ability to say yes without knowing how. Like, here we are. And it's almost like every morning for me, I wake up and it's about saying yes to this relationship that we're creating, saying yes without knowing how to do it, without knowing who I'm going to meet each day. Like we're doing so much transformation work that every day, every hour, it's like someone new is there, and she'll go into an emotional healing process, and when I don't know who's going to walk out of the door after the process is done. And sometimes she comes out yelling at me, like, and I'm like, okay, here we are. This is what we're working with right now. And yeah, it's we have an unfair advantage, right, between us, because we met in training, and we've spent since we've met basically in training. And so we're like transforming, and we're committed to this transformation together. And that's been like this, it's felt like a cheat code in a way. Yeah. And also, one thing that I recognize as really important is how much help we've had. Most couples, and even in my history of relationships, I've waited until things get bad or messy to start asking for help. And we've been in trainings, and I think since we met, we've been on an online call, like in a group call every day of the week, every single day of the week, every week since we had our first trainings together. And so we've had help from the beginning, a lot of help, like a lot of space holders. And yeah, the frying pan that she talked about, where we both sat in the center of a circle of 25 people with space holders, and we got, we were really pushed to say all the things we have not said. And yeah, for me, these things are like big cheat codes for relating, that create a space, a really strong space for practice. And yeah, practice is I think such a key word. To have the context of the relationship be practice. Yes, Jenya.
Thank you. I'm bringing, what you said resonates a lot, but you have received so much help because you're in the same context and you're surrounded by community that is practicing all these transformation tools. And I can see how much help it is to nourish and let the relationship grow. And today I'm bringing slightly an opposite challenge to the table. And it is, how do you relate outside of possibility management context? I'm finding myself but I do have a lot of connection in the community in what I've been living in, what is practicing possibility management. And in my old, in San Cristobal de las Casas, where I spent 1 year, where people are practicing a little bit of possibility management, but mostly it's like the same mental cloud that we're feeding off. I'm noticing that now when I'm trying to relate to people who are not in the context and who are far from the context and actually don't want anything to do with connecting in emotional or energetical bodies, that's the challenge I have. How do you relate to people outside of PM?
So you want to go?
I'd like to open it up to Jenya and anyone who has an impulse to answer that question.
Well, I want to say something about it, which is that the title of this talk is Relating on the Bridge, which inherently speaks to like the romantic relationships that form between people who are walking a path on the edge of modern culture, like walking a path on the edge of safety and comfort. So, and I hear you say that there's someone who doesn't want to relate energetically or emotionally, then I'm wondering, like, is that person really on the bridge?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I am saying I'm bringing my question of how do you relate to people outside of possibility management context.
Got it. Yeah, I wanna also offer to the people who have not been, working within the possibility management context, a little bit of like wrap something around this question, which is that a context is like a shared commitment to to a certain level of responsibility, or which also includes how we relate to each other. It's like this is how we do things, sort of, without the dogmatic, culty sort of vibe to it, but that we have a shared language and we have agreements and we're pointing sort of towards a shared North Star in a way, on some level. And I think, yeah, so the question I think is like how to relate to someone who speaks a different language and is operating under a different set of agreements. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Dania, would you clarify, are you talking about romantic relating or just relating to people in general?
Both.
Okay.
I'm speaking about both contexts.
Sounds to me like a culture to culture conversation.
Yes, it is. And I also see the distinction between culture to culture conversation and creating intimacy, going deeper, which for me, culture to culture conversation it's a great tool of like, how can I meet you where you are? How can I like make our boxes be friends together? Anyway, how can we be in peace and love through like in the difference of our cultures? Where deepening the context, deepening the connection, creating more intimacy is, I think it does require, for me, it does require connecting in emotional bodies, in energetic bodies. Archetypal body is also essential, as like what we are doing right now. For example, we are, I think, connecting in our archetypal bodies right now by trying to navigate through this topic of relating. It's something that is alive. It's something that is, we are even a little bit, but all turned on about. That's why we're here. So yes, this would be the distinction between culture to culture for me, and deepening the connection, deepening the intimacy.
What I'm just getting when you speak is like, if I'm not able to like have a culture to culture conversation with somebody and establish some kind of common context, I fear it will not be possible to have any kind of intimacy, like any kind of real intimacy.
Will Oliver, will you go deeper into real intimacy? Like how would you relate real intimacy to someone who's never considered what that might mean?
I mean, I can distinguish like kind of more, well, fake or superficial intimacy. I think it's like, depending on the context that you're in, it's kind of easy to have like physical intimacy and believe that it's also emotional and maybe energetic intimacy. I think it's also kind of easy to have this like child ego states merging and feel like totally connected and intimate. And then like having the thing blow up maybe after some time. And with real intimacy, that's how I would define it for me right now, would be to have like two adults relating, like two people grounded, centered, and bubbled in their own energetic space, and then starting to relate, bringing all of their 5 bodies at the same time. And this requires quite a lot. And also like when you said relating on the bridge, I think there are many edge workers who are not in modern culture anymore, and they might be on a different bridge to somewhere else. And like for me right now, I'm getting to know a woman, and she's on a different bridge. She's not in modern culture, but she's on a different bridge. And I have not really been able to open the culture to culture conversation in a way that we really land in a common ground. like not common enough of a ground for me so that intimacy would start. And I also sense like there's emotional stuff from my part coming and preventing me from doing it. And at the same time, I find it very, very difficult, like without having to kind of set the whole context and kind of really explain in detail where, on which bridge I'm living.
Yeah, there's boxes coming up for me. So for people who don't have the distinction of boxes, like your set of, you know, preferences and things that you like, that you know, that kind of keep you contained in a box. Yeah. So the thing about the box, we had a conversation when we visited Schloss Glarisegg, the community that Catherine lives in, and it was a conversation about friendship and how you pick friends and also potentially partners who have a similar box to you or set of preferences, things that are like similar that you get, and that sort of almost feels like it's this inherent common shared context. And you know, how does it work? The question I'm having is, how does it work to and I spoke about this with Zhenya earlier, is how do you have this relational space between the boxes? Like, how does that go? How do you create intimacy between the boxes? And part of me even wants to say, you know, is it even worth it? You know, like, is it even worth it? Like to invest that time and energy almost trying to convince or pull on each other's boxes to get us into this space together. It's a question that I don't have an answer. That's yeah.
This is bringing up something really big, actually, that between Jacqueline and I, like we have a lot of things, like our boxes really relate in certain aspects, and in other ways they hate each other. But what we have beyond shared box patterns is we have a shared this shared context is like greater than our boxes. That sharing this context makes it so that when our boxes hate each other, there's something bigger that can hold the conflict. And I've never had the experience of navigating conflict so smoothly. It's not that the conflict is better or less intense, but that there's like always a light at the end of the tunnel in the conflict that somehow we can navigate towards. And yeah, it's like a difference between a shared box versus shared context.
And I feel a lot of fear about, and this maybe is an emotional fear, but I feel this fear like that I can only relate in a shared context and it works. Like, and this comes back to Zhenya's question. Like, can I relate deeply, intimately outside of a shared context? And I'm interested to hear from people who have less of a PM context, who maybe
or none at all,
or none, who have either no idea what we're talking about or sort of get what we're talking about. And just how does this all sound? Like, you know, like to hear from another perspective.
Yeah, I also very new, like a couple months into a relationship that aligned in many ways in, I'd say 4 or 5 bodies, and I just see so much parallels with what you guys have been talking about this like push and pull and trying not to go too deep too fast. So yeah, it makes me wonder when you mention like, is it worth trying to align these boxes? Is it that like maybe you don't need to like start with comparing the boxes, but you can just start with what's inside the box instead of fitting them together? Is that kind of how is there another path that's more worth it?
Will you clarify one thing? Because you said, will you re-say what you said? Because I wasn't sure you were also talking about context, or if it was all box that you were just talking about.
Yeah, because like I've recently, just this last weekend, felt like I put up some walls and I guess like created a kind of a box, and just noticed a lot of like kind of reverberation of that push and pull, and you know how she's pushing and pulling as well. So I can kind of start to sense where that box is and where my wall got put up. And you just said it before that maybe it's like not worth trying to pull your boxes in closer, right? So I was just curious if you're describing that in like maybe having another way to access intimacy.
I mean, hearing you say back, like, is it worth it to me, is like, it feels so heavy to hear that. Like, I feel a lot of sadness, you know, like, is it worth it? Is this intimacy worth it? Is this relationship, this relating, is it worth it? And that feels like it's like putting it on a chopping block, you know, this judgment day. And I feel a lot of sadness about this. And yeah, now I have another question, which is, you know, is it like what is worth it?
Something about like holding that higher context, that something deeper than the boxes, something deeper than the self. Is that what we're pointing to? That is greater than the sum of ourselves.
So we're all here investigating together. So you bring what you have. You don't have to ask it as a question. You can ask questions to the group that you have for the group, but my proposal is you don't check it with us. You stay.
Yeah, my apologies.
And what just came to me is with West. How do I betray a part of myself when I'm settling for a connection that is not really feeding me? For example, because I'm right now traveling with two of my really good friends for whom I have lots of love, and we are not speaking the same language. So I'm on the quest right now. I'm trying to connect with them. I'm trying to meet them where they are, because they cannot meet me where I am. And yet I'm feeling, I don't know how, I did not really translate it yet and like what's really going on, but I feel my archetypal body is starving for connection beyond superficial, beyond doing things together, which is also an amazing time spent. And this is where like little dots where I can meet them where they are, and that's how we connect. And yet I'm wondering if I'm killing a part of myself by choosing to just be in the company of friends where we share love, but not really as support team for transformation and intimacy.
So Jenya, one thing I wanted to point out about you to the group just from this call is how wonderful it is that it's almost like you're always looking to see how to make it work for you. Like on this call, you said, well, this is my question. You know, you were bold enough to say, this is my question. Like you guys are doing this, but actually this is my question. And so my question to you is, are you doing the same thing in this group? You know, are you asking, you know, how do I make this work for me in your group?
Yes, I am, and I'm receiving beeps when I'm, meaning by beeps for people outside of possibility management context, meaning that I'm receiving a red light when I'm trying to bring my new culture, the culture that has been really transformative to me, into my old setting with my old friends. They don't want to meet me where I am. And so there was this space of negotiation. So now what? And when I'm taking responsibility, okay, fine, I get it. It's too fast and it's too dangerous and it's too just not, it's not too chill. It's not too chill to be creating intimate intimate connections. And so I'm now trying to see where I can meet them. And that goes a little bit right now. It's been only a couple of days since I'm trying this experiment of just going where they are and seeing how how we can connect there. For now, I'm feeling a little bit this like urge that in order for me to like have the deep connections and have a listening spaces, I need to call up my friends online for these spaces. So again, I'm just feeling I'm I am sacrificing some parts of myself.
Yeah, this for me is bringing up some question that I've also been working with around shadow principles in my relationships, both in friendships and in romantic relationships. What I hear is that some part of you is still having expectation that they will change and that they will meet you where you are and that you just have to prove your context to them. And this is something that's come up for me recently with a lover that I've been with for a few months, is this thing of like, I have to prove my context is good enough so he'll come and join me, that he's on a different bridge to somewhere else. But if I just, show him the value of possibility management or show him the value of this authentic relating, then he'll come and join me and he'll want to be with me on this bridge. And so it's been a big part for navigating intimacy with someone who's a different context than me, has been just acknowledging my shadow principles in this connection and acknowledging the ways that my shadow principles are creating expectations and are really blocking me from getting my needs met in other places. Because, not every relationship can meet every need.
I have something. So Ethna, would you lead the group in a really short exercise on uncovering their shadow principles? And if you're in a relationship, then you can use your relationship, or if you're not, then just try to find your own shadow principles in relationship. I would love to explore that right now, actually.
Wow, I feel really scared of that offer. Wow, a lot of emotional fear coming up around that. But yes, I accept your challenge for this experiment. Okay. So, I want to go into breakout rooms for this, for this experiment. And I want to do groups of 2 or 3. And in this space, I want you to be with whatever emotions are coming up in your body. I want you to feel into your fears, and particularly in relation to the person that is on your screen. And speak those fears. Say, I feel uncomfortable. I feel scared because you look intimidating. I feel scared because I'm afraid of saying something that is wrong. And go as many layers deep as you can into this fear. So every time a fear comes up, go a layer deeper. I'm scared because this. And there will be 2 minutes for each person, and try to get to the hidden expectation that you have with this one person in front of you. Because our shadow sides are always, our underworlds, our gremlins are always creating expectation, and it's an unconscious way to exact revenge upon people. So if they don't act the way that you expect them to act, or they don't do the things you expect them to do, you get to hate them, you get to resent them, you get to play underworld games to hurt them in exchange for not meeting your expectations. So my experiment is to use your fear to find your expectation for the maybe total stranger who's sitting in front of you.
Great.
Are you guys a yes to my experiment?
A question, a clarifying question. In a expectation in a relationship of each one of us personally?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just the person in front of you might be a total stranger, might be someone you've known for years. But I think that a big part of this project for me, or for this work for me, has been uncovering the ways in which I create expectation. Because I do the same thing with my lover that I do with someone on the streets. You know, I create these expectations regardless of my level of intimacy with the person. And so this experiment is to find the mechanism, find the ways that your fear, unconscious fear, turns itself into expectation. Does anyone have any resistance to this?
No, but I would be super grateful for a short example, or like super quick, because I'm not fully there.
I can go. I have one from today. So,
Okay.
So yeah, so basically, we're okay. Okay. So I have fear about an expectation that you have of me. So yeah, I feel fear that if I'm not fierce enough, if I'm not enough of an asshole, that you will not be interested in being with me. I feel fear. And so my expectation is that you want me to be something. I expect you to want me to be something, for you to be like something else, for you to want to be with me.
And Jacqueline, what's the gremlin benefit to this expectation, to this story?
That I can put up walls and find reasons to push you away, so I don't have to feel the heartbreak if there came a day that you didn't want me. And have another man that disappoints me and feed my story that men are disappointing. And it also feeds a story that I'm not good enough as I am.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the example, Jacqueline.
Okay. Does anyone need anything else before we go into the breakout rooms?
I will amend my experiment a bit. If you are not able to access any expectations to the person in front of you, choose someone who you are in relationship with. Choose a partner, a lover, a friend. If you're unable to feel anything for the person in front of you, then project.
Actually, yeah, just something you can do is you can tell the person in front of you, you can ask them to be that person and just give them the name, and you can snap your fingers to become that person. Just say, hello, I am the person you named. And at the end, snap your fingers to get out of it. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine, Hannah. You're gonna be in a breakout with Barbara. Barbara, it seems like you're not able to participate, is that right?
Yeah. Maybe.
So we'll put you in there, and then you guys can just do the experiment between you guys, and then we'll come back in about 6 minutes.
So I do it manually then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we go 3 minutes each.
Well, it's 2 minutes each, but there's, in the changeover and everything, there's always some time that's extra time in there. So about 6 minutes, and yeah, keep your own time. And then in 6 minutes, we'll bring the space back. We're just creating the breakout rooms now. All right.
Oh wait, we're not in one.
We'll do it between us.
Okay. Also, Etna, will you will keep time
No,
Yes, I will.
overall?
Well, I'll keep time for my. I will keep time for my group.
Each group keep
we'll
your
keep time
own
and we'll
time.
get the prompts.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
we'll send you a message when it's time to switch.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
And into
Broadcast.
click broadcast, and then say pick who will go first, and go
5 minutes?
in 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
I've never actually done these before. Okay. Wait, no, you're not. Okay. You go first.
I feel fear of connecting with you because it's like the fear is like I go too fast, and that you go so fast. When I go fast, you go fast also, and I feel fear that it will just like spin out of control, and I feel fear that my story about that you can't handle me is true. I feel fear that actually that I can't really bullshit you. I feel fear that I can't, my stories won't work. I'm noticing that in this there's an expectation that you have to catch me. The expectation is that you have to take care of me, that you have to be the one to catch things and to take the responsibility. That yeah, you'll basically be my boundary. I don't think 2 minutes is enough time.
I know. We can go a little more. I don't know. Make it 3 minutes and say it's 2.
And well, no, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, we can just give a little time for them to slow down and switch.
I feel fear of connecting with you because I feel like I'm gonna be the bad guy. Like I'm the prison guard. Like you expect me to be the one to make sure we're practicing, to be the one to say like what you can do and can't do with your sexual energy. And yeah, it's like I'm like the police. And I hate it. I feel a lot of fear about that. And I feel this fear like I need to be like big and loud and extraordinary and an asshole and larger than life. And I sense you see the potential in me, and I feel fear that, you know, there's these expectations that I need to like be that, you know, yesterday, or you'll leave. You'll be unattracted. It's like an expectation, like I need to perform. I need to perform. I feel a lot of fear about my projections of authority, and it's actually really been landing in me the past couple of days of like I cannot effectively relate to you if I do not take myself seriously as an adult, and I am the little girl to your authority figure. Like it does not, it cannot, it will not, it's not sustainable.
Thank you. That's like really fast. I noticed that it's like, yeah, like I'm projecting mom on you and you're doing dad to me. And I'm like wondering when is it that this comes up? Because it's not always. Like when is it? Yeah, how can we start like identifying it more?
What is the mom thing? I don't have a
that you do it for me. My mom always did everything for me, so.
Which is interesting because I was just after this sort of thinking like it's almost like I'm projecting authority on you, and then you're giving me authority back somehow. Like I take care of it. I do the things for you somehow. There's like an authority, like a parent authority. So we're both like giving authority to the other person.
Hello, Beth.
Hi.
Hello.
Well,
Hey,
Hello, Andrea.
The
Do
60
we have to
second
bring them? Oh,
closing
okay,
thing.
got it.
No,
Okay.
they'll be back.
Hmm.
2 seconds.
Oh, they come.
I'm excited to hear shares from this. Welcome back. I'd love to open the space for just shares, what's alive, what came up in this experiment.
It worked for me. It was too short. The time was too short. I noticed that I just kind of started to feel the fear, and I would have loved to have more time to really sink into it and find the deeper layers of it. And it really worked to just name the expectations and all the stories in my mind that I have, to kind of be transparent about it, and then maybe find if there's something beyond that.
Would you share what the expectation was so that maybe somebody else in the group might?
Yeah, to actually kind of, I expect, like I was doing it like with the woman that I'm getting to know, and my expectation is that she kind of converts to my context so that we can, I don't know, to kind of create that what I have in my fantasy world. So like, well, I want her to conform to what I think. That's the expectation.
Beth, do you have something?
Yes. I discovered an expectation that I actually use as an excuse. So the expectation is that the other is not going to accept all my parts. And so I'm a victim of them othering parts of me. And so I get to defend even parts of myself that really actually want to be looked at and given space to exist. Yes. And it's an excuse to actually keep hurting someone with a part that's kind of going awry, if that makes sense, with maybe a gremlin or an underworld aspect. So the expectation on the other person that they're not going to accept me fully ends up being this excuse I have to not be handling my underworld and taking responsibility for my own underworld.
Yeah, thank you. My expectation was similar in that it's like I expect that Jacqueline will take care of my underworld. Like she will be sharp, and she will call it and name it. And if she doesn't, then it's her fault, for not doing it. And I'm off the hook.
And I feel so much fear even before you shared this, and it confirmed it, which is that then I become the police that he can resent and take.
The what? Excuse me?
Then I become the police or the prison. I'm always the bad guy, and then one who's not fun, the one who's always saying no. And that sucks. I don't want that. And yeah, we also noticed in the sharing, we were talking about authority and like how I am projecting authority in other ways onto him from my child ego state, like father stuff. And then what he's saying is about I'm getting this mother parent authority.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
When I was
One thing
sharing,
I discovered. Go, Marcus. Go.
Yeah, when I was sharing and even listening, I felt like such a energetic swirl, almost like a somewhat altered state of consciousness. And for me, what came up was like a fear of how my partner used to cope with relationships, being more like competitive and this kind of thing. So I really noticed like my expectation was that would be more like collaborative, and not sure how my future self would deal with too much prodding and leveraging and competition related relationing, because I always think of it as collaborative approach.
Thank you.
Yeah, I found a lot of gremlin self-cannibalism in my expectations. I had these two really contradictory expectations for this man that I've been seeing for the past few months. One was that he would eventually join me on my bridge, leave his bridge and come to mine if I can just prove that my context is good enough. And the other contradictory expectation is that he will never join me, no matter what. He will never come to me and meet me where I am. And in that expectation, I found that there's this huge gremlin benefit where I get to like beat myself up, like, oh, if I was a better possibilitator, if I was only like, took a stronger stand for my context, that he would come to me. It's a failing in me that he's not wanting to meet me where I am. And so I came across this just huge gremlin benefit that I wasn't really aware of before in that expectation. I feel sad that I use this opportunity for intimacy with him to just like kill myself and to beat myself up.
Mm.
Would it be worth to describe gremlin benefit? I think I have an idea.
Go.
Yes. Oh, I feel scared of taking up space in this call. So the gremlin is like the king or queen of your underworld, which is kind of the shadow of your being. It's where expectations are created. It's the space where the revenge happens, where jealousy happens, where all these kinds of things that can dilute your purpose are occurring, and everyone has one. Everyone has an underworld. And the gremlin is not bad. It's not good. It just is. It's a part of you. You can't get rid of it. The practice of gremlin transformation is learning how to live with it. But in gremlin transformation work, you become aware of the ways that you sabotage yourself and sabotage others. And in it, there's this joy, because the gremlin experiences the four feelings just like the rest of the parts do. And there's a gremlin joy in destruction, in self-destruction or external destruction. And this is the gremlin benefit. This is what the gremlin feeds off of, what continues this part in kind of continuing these cycles and continuing these activities. And so my gremlin is very focused on self-destruction within me. And so I use this story to beat myself up. And so my gremlin benefit is, how do I use this just neutral information of my partner may never come meet me on my bridge, and how my gremlin uses it to hurt me. I don't feel like I'm being very clear. So if anyone else has any better distinction or more clear distinction for gremlin benefit, please jump in the space.
Marcus, how did that land in you?
Yeah, it landed. Yeah, that's how I was thinking of it. Thank you.
It's hard to accept that every action that we take has a benefit. Like a lot of times when I ask people this question that haven't been working on this for a while, they say, well, there is no benefit. Of course not. I say, well, you know, you wouldn't do it if there was no benefit. So there must be something. And this is a very daring step to take. Like, it's a very courageous step to explore, how do you benefit from killing somebody or yourself, destroying yourself or somebody else in a dark. Usually the gremlin benefits are pretty dark. Like, you know, if we really get down there, it's like an icky thing to say out loud.
And there's always, there's an agenda, always some kind of an agenda. Like when you were sharing about, like, it's come up a few times, so a lot of people are wanting to like convince people to come to their context. That's a theme that's coming up that I'm hearing. And then there's another theme of like, I want to like prove myself right, that I'm a victim. Like, I want to convince, you know, the world that I am this victim. So there's an agenda of like convincing that, you know, I'm right. Like, I already knew it, and it's going to stay this way, and going to keep perpetuating some story. And yeah, when you also, Ethna, when you said the word neutrality, that really struck me. There's something about this convincing aspect. Like, one side is like, I have this agenda, and then the other side is like maintaining some neutrality with that. And yeah, I feel fear that I'm like,
Will you just wrap it back around to the relating on the bridge, and like how this gremlin benefit is important?
yeah,
Recognizing it.
yeah, it's like, yeah, thank you. It's something like, if you can notice when you're convincing yourself, you're trying to convince someone, like, I want to bring someone to my context, or I want to convince the world that I'm a victim. And really just start to neutrally observe it happening. In that neutral observation, there becomes more of like a spaciousness for you to actually be with the gremlin, or be with perhaps the person that you're trying to convince to be in your context, and maybe like release the grip, the agenda, the convincing.
Can I ask, sorry, what is an agenda? I'm sorry, sometimes I struggle to follow.
Yes, an agenda.
Or Oliver, so maybe he can translate in German.
Yeah, I would use the same word.
It's sort of, it's like I have like it's just something I want to convince you about, that's like unspoken, like a secret thing that you don't know about, that I want to make you, like, I want to make an argument to convince you to be on my side, but you don't know about it. It's hidden.
That's an agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
What's coming up for me is, like, as we're talking to related on the bridge, I assume we're like trying to meet in the middle of the bridge where there is almost no context, or like we're not pulling one person to one context or another, right? So it's a bit of yeah, collaboration.
Yeah, still, there's this thing of like standing on under the bridge, there's no ground. So it's like standing together with no ground under us, like with nothing solid, like to stand in the gap between two worlds. Like, how do we do that? How do we stand, you know, in this thing about groundlessness? Like, how do we stand there in the gap between I know this and I know this? What about standing here in the middle together?
We actually, at the lab, we did this at one of the trainings, the recent trainings that we did in Poland. There was an exercise, and I think we were in the same group for it actually, and it was about like relating between the boxes. where the unknown comes through. And it was really challenging for me. It was so challenging, and I still don't have it figured out, and I feel angry about it because I want to know now, and I don't answer. And it's basically like, here's my box and here's your box, and for us to relate, it's either we have to be on my box or we have to be in your box, and I don't know how to be in between the boxes relating, and it's really scary. And it's like, okay, so like, I think you said it before, Jen, you're like, okay, I'm going to try to meet them where they're at, and then it's like, okay, now I'm adapting, now I'm in their box, and then it's like, okay, I try to meet that, convince them to come to my culture, okay, so now we're back in my box, and it's like, okay, how do we be in between the boxes?
Mm.
My experience, like in my experience, like say I would have like certain events that I knew my partner had in life, and I could almost like string up a little bridge of what I think like the narrative arc of her story was, right? And then recently, you know, that whole thing switched like a plot twist, and I started to paint like, you know, a different intention upon the pillars of her bridge, basically. And then I think that would cause a lot of this like push and pull. And then I realized that maybe, you know, that is, we just have to live in this unknown space of like, hey, maybe there's two possible arcs of how that of how her story could arise, and I don't truly know. And just to kind of start to walk forward together, and then kind of put the pillars in place as we go and see where they land.
Mm-hmm.
My analogy makes sense.
I feel some fear about what you're saying, Marcus, because I assume that when you're not intentionally setting a context, then you kind of fall back into your default context. So, and that would be, I guess, in most cases, kind of, I don't know, like modern culture relating, maybe even a patriarchal way of relating, or like a, say, child ego state fantasy world relating. And even the kind of the meeting on a bridge without ground, as you said, Jeff, like in the groundlessness, this, like what you're saying, this happens in a context. It's kind of like it happens in the context of like more like archiarchy or possibility management, where there is a distinction of groundlessness. And I'm just getting the sense that it's not really possible to relate without having some kind of common context.
Mm.
What about holding two contexts as possible contexts at the same time, like whatever those may be?
I feel fear about that, because like, I don't know, if I'm raw vegan and you're kind of doing Ayurvedic food, then it kind of doesn't really match. And I mean, I'm afraid that there will not be many meeting points where you can really create intimacy.
Mm.
I have a picture of that.
Or you just have to eat separately.
Can I?
Yeah.
Yes, Catherine, go.
It really touched me about this picture of relating on the bridge, and both has their ground. And meeting on the bridge means to relate from being to being.
Mm.
And when there is this lack of this common thing, after relating, everyone goes back to his ground, and it stays two-dimensional. And when you have something together to develop or to unfold, then the bridge becomes like three-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I'm looking for.
Could you say more about the three?
Creating something more than is. What do you mean?
Could you say something more about the three-dimensional? What does it like? How is it made?
it has the dimension of time, that you create something more together, and you both evolve, and your ground also evolves.
I'm visualizing that as like, it's not just a bridge across the river. You actually start to build the bridge like towards parallel with the rivers of time, basically.
And I'm also imagining like each plank like appears as you like step, like
Yeah.
it like appears under your feet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, building new ground together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you
Yes.
do that? The question is for you, Jeff and Jacqueline.
For me, what came up for me was that first is commitment. Like the first is like you commit, like you both people commit to stay there, and just that on its own starts to build more time, right? And then like playing together in terms of working with all of the parts together, you know, not trying to pretend like there's no gremlin, or not trying to pretend like, you know, it's like, okay, I have an expectation right now, okay, give it to me, you know, like we've started creating spaces to consciously do unconscious things. So like if someone has like, if for instance, she woke up one morning and she was really just pissed off about I don't know what. She woke up and it was not good.
Didn't sleep well.
Well, yeah, but then I said she didn't want to complain. She's like, I don't want to complain. I said, okay, how about this? Let's make a space. We'll time it for like 5 minutes. You can complain about everything. Just go complain. And she just let it rip. And like, you know, fuck, and the pillow sucks, and it was too cold, and you were too hot, and she just said all the things, and then after that, all of that could just float away, you know, and instead of like housing it, and so making space to be with all of the things that are, including, hey, our contexts are so different, right? Just having that conversation, our contexts are so different, and inviting what unfolds after that statement is already like creating that 3-dimensional path together, because now you're working together on your differences.
And I noticed this fear that comes up, which is like this, you know, this fear of intimacy, of relating with you, of when I share all the parts of myself, not just the enjoyable, pleasant ones. Like I feel this fear, like he's gonna see I'm a complainer, for example, and I don't want that. Like no one wants to be around a complainer. I don't, and that's my own.
Right.
I have it written down, so that's my own stuff. And at the same time, it's like, yeah, you whether it's, you got to say the things that you're scared to say, and that comes back to the commitment, that the person's committed to being with you, even though they're seeing all the parts of yourself, and them not like, you know, I have this fear that it'll be used against me. You know, they'll be like, oh, she's that and all these bad things. It's like, no, we're committed to being with all the parts of you and staying with you. And this person, for example, that might not share your context, it's like, yeah, they want to be with you and all the parts of you, or they don't. And what are they committed to? And then what do you want? What do you want in a partner? What do you want them to be committed to? Like parts of you or all of you?
And I feel I have the sense that, Jennifer, you have something really important about this. the last 8 minutes.
Yeah, well, I loved what Catherine was saying. I think it's about finding the harmony within different paradigms and giving each other the patience to explore that harmony and being able to translate your own knowledge from your paradigm back to where the other person is at, for the expansion, like Catherine mentioned. And personally, I'm connected with someone from PM. I actually don't know much about it, to be honest. This is my first thing I attend. But from the subject of, I think, conviction or convincing someone, I think there's a reason why someone outside of PM context comes onto your path. Otherwise, like Jacqueline and Jeff, you were together within the PM context, which is how it was supposed to be, right? So if someone outside of the PM context comes onto your path, there's a purpose for that. And if we shut off by saying, well, I am here to teach you something, and you close yourself off from humility in a way to discover why this soul has come to your path. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's another layer, if I may. I think I've kind of moved through different paradigms, and for a while I was also part of the community where you can start to identify sometimes with a paradigm. And I think the beauty lies in taking the gold from a paradigm, but still integrating it in your being so that you can feel the openness to withdraw from different paradigms, but not identifying and therefore remaining in a new box, perhaps.
I think you have a very important message for us who are deep in the context. Very important. Yeah, and you know, this any context that's very sharp and very powerful has a huge shadow. And I think we can all agree, all of us who've been working on this for a long time can agree that it's part of our box, that it's become part of our box, and our box, I want you to come to my box. You know, I don't want to go to yours. I want you to come to mine. And because mine's better, that's the big shadow. It's huge. And I mean, I'm still working on it big time. And it was really destructive for a long time, like extremely destructive. So thank you for bringing that to the space.
Thank you for inviting me. I was like, you probably saw me like, am I or am I not? So thank you for that. I felt a bit of fear. But I was recently reading something about Jesus, who would connect with normal people, if you will, and he would learn everything from every single human, and they would be in the old context, but it doesn't mean they have something incredibly valuable to teach you. And he actually used that for his further ascension. So I kind of like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was Jacqueline's first work talk, and I want to ask you, how was it for you? How was it?
It was amazing. I love the group intelligence. It's my favorite part. It's my absolute favorite part. Like, we don't know, we know what, like maybe one thing. and we just, this journey that we went on with everyone, all of, you know, popcorning and dominoes and other kinds of foods and games, you could call it. Too many metaphors. So yeah, it was great, and I really enjoyed doing it.
Yay, Jacqueline.
Yes, go more.
Go, Jacqueline, go.
When is your next one?
Yes.
Yes.
We actually, that's a great question. On October 15th, alongside David and Anton and Selena and Anton and Clem, hopefully all of us will come together to talk about rage and evolutionary relationships. So going more specifically into the the energy and the force of anger, conscious anger, to empower evolutionary relationships. We'll send you the information.
Go.
Yes.
And yeah, there's 3 minutes left. So anything like, I would like to hear one big thing that you're taking with you from this space. The big sigh, go first.
Oh, rawness, honesty.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vulnerability.
A 3-dimensional bridge.
Commitment for that.
Patience.
Will you say that again?
Patience.
Patience.
Patience. Relating between boxes.
In between the boxes.
Yeah. And relating between contexts and really taking the goal that the person opposite of me has for me.
Not being a good possibilitator.
Yes.
What's
Group
alive?
intelligence.
Go again, Jennifer.
Speaking about what's alive.
Yes. And group intelligence, I heard from Beth, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, it's about that time. Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing up. I feel so full and like buzzing from the space. And I really am grateful for this time with you all. And I look forward to doing it again.
Yay.
Yay.
And
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And will you
Thank
share
you.
any legends or gold that unfold from you on this topic and keep sharing with the group? Maybe we make a group. Would you be open to be put into a Telegram group? Share about
Waving.
Oliver is
Take
10
resistance.
resistance.
Too many groups.
Okay, great. You're at your own risk or don't. Yeah. Okay. To be continued. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.